Hello, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to March series again, which is put together for our parental support community that has been organized by Faith Ministry. Today is the third session in the series we're having in the month of March, and we are going to be looking at another very important subject matter this evening, which is critical for all parents and parents-to-be. This session is much needed for as many persons who are into active parenting. Parents who have children who are growing up presently, and parents-to-be, as many persons who one day in the future will be raising a child. By God's grace, we've had sessions in this event, and just briefly, I'm going to be introducing to you our guest speaker for tonight's session. But before I do that, I'm going to be sharing with you very briefly what we do in Faith Ministry. Faith Ministry is an assignment given to us to raise children for God. The underlying thing about this assignment is that we may raise godly seed. And we have been engaging this assignment through different avenues. And tonight, we're going to be engaging this assignment in the March series avenue for our parental support community. This is what we do, this is what we stand for, and this is what we've been trusting that as we make progress in this assignment, God will help us to accomplish and fulfill more for Him. This session, in the last weekend, we had Dr. Lasende and Dr. Ojede talking to us about critical periods in our children development, implication for parenting, and as well dental care of babies and children 0 to 8 years, respectively. And those were very powerful sessions that we would not want anyone to miss as parents. This evening, we're grateful that we're going to be hosting Mr. Abimbola Fagbemi to speak with us tonight. And I want to implore you that please share this link with friends, loved ones, as many persons you think would benefit from these sessions. Please comment on the YouTube session. Also, we can use the chat room in the Zoom room. Like and follow us on our Twitter platform. Tonight, we are hosting Mr. Abimbola Fagbemi in the room tonight. And is a speech pathologist. He presently practices with the State Hospital, Ring Road in Ibadan. He is a registered member of the Speech Pathologist Association of Nigeria and is a first-class graduate from the University of Ibadan, Faculty of Education. He graduated as a speech pathologist and audiologist. And tonight, I've tasted of his stuff, and I can tell you that he's able to make this meeting good for us tonight. Thanks so much for listening. We would welcome Mr. Fagbemi on board as he brings us his presentation. Please just stay tuned while we'll have him come to the room and present to us. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Mr. Abimbola Fagbemi, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's play off.
Thanks so much. I've done the necessary preliminary, so you can share your screen and we can get started.
Okay. I think we have about just only 3 participants.
Yes, we
can start.
We are
sorry,
are
we waiting for others? I don't know.
We are continuing. We are streaming to YouTube as well. So at any point in time, it's possible to have participants in YouTube and not on YouTube.
I think your voice is echoing, probably because the two, probably you are controlling the two Zoom meetings, like the one of Faith Ministry and then the one of Samuel Ojedeji. Then maybe the two phones or the connection are together, so I can't really hear you very well, sir.
I was saying that we are streaming to YouTube as well, so
okay,
we could have participants watching on the YouTube and not in the Zoom room at any point in time.
Oh, okay, all right. Let me share the screen.
All right, sir.
Okay. Um, so, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I really want to appreciate the organizer of this conference in the person of Samuel Ojedeji. Thank you so much for the privilege. Thank you so much for the honor. Yeah, we pray that this more of this come in season like this and even in future. So without wasting much of our time, because we have about an hour, we have the topic display on the screen. So we're talking about the speech acquisition and delays in children, applications for parenting. So it's very important that we'll just have a look at what we'll be discussing before we move on. I want to be sure that the audio is working. Will I believe that the audio is working? I'm not talking to myself. Yeah.
Yes, it's working, sir.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So we'll be looking at what is speech? What do we mean by speech acquisition? What is language acquisition? And then we'll be taking a look at stages of language acquisition in a typical child. At what age should we expect speech signs? We'll be taking a look at speech and language delay in children as well. And after that, we'll be looking at some courses for speech language delay in children. We'll talk briefly on autism, signs and symptoms that we have to look out for before we can say a child has a child is on spectrum, or there are red flags for a child to be autistic. Then lastly, we'll be looking at how to aid speech and language development in babies. Now, what is speech acquisition? It's very important that we understand what we mean by speech acquisition. So before I talk on what is speech acquisition, I really want to give a brief explanation about what speech and what language is. We shouldn't try to mix up the two together. Speech is different from language. So that we can get it better, I will start with what language is. When we talk about language, language is all about understanding what is being said, and then the expression of your thoughts, expression of your feelings, expression of your ideas in any way. It can be through signs, it can be through symbols, it can be through any means that you can pass the message across. That is what we refer to as language. The language is divided into two. We have receptive language, and at the same time, we have expressive language. The receptive language has to do with the understanding of what is being said, as I've said earlier on. And then the expressive language has to do with expressing of your own thoughts, your feelings, your ideas through any means, which can be in form of signs, symbols, or any other means of communication. Now, when we talk about speech, so speech serves as a verbal representation of language. Yes, it's just a means through which language can be communicated. Remember, okay, for example, let's use road signs as a case study. We all know that when we are driving, when we get to traffic and then we see red lights, it actually passes a message across, which has to do with stop. That is language. But the means through which the language is being passed across is through what? Is through symbol and sign. The symbol of light or the color, it has to do with red. But when it comes to speech, we're talking about the verbal representation of language. So, for example, we might want to tell someone driving to stop, probably by a computer shouting stop, stop, stop. That is speech, the verbal representation of language. But on the road, we don't have that. We have the signs instead. That's why we have red, which means stop. Then green, which means go. Yellow, get ready. So I believe that with that little explanation, we should be able to differentiate between speech and language. So summarily, as regards speech and language, speech has to do with the verbal representation of language, while language has to do with understanding of what is being said and the expression of your thoughts, feelings, ideas in any means, which can be through verbal means or non-verbal means. So coming back to what is on our screen, what is speech acquisition? Speech acquisition refers to a stage whereby a child masters a number of phonemes or speech sounds needed for language expression at an expected age. So when we're talking about speech acquisition, we are talking about the stage at which a child masters a number of speech sounds that is needed for the expression of language that I just explained before. Now you might be wondering what we mean by phonemes, what we mean by speech sounds. If you look at the screen, we have some example of phonemes and speech sounds where we have ha, I, U, E, pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga, mi, ni, ong. Those are the examples of phonemes and speech sounds. So all these are put together to serve as verbal representation for language. So a stage whereby a child is and is able to put all these sounds together to pass a particular message across is referred to as speech acquisition. Moving on. What is language acquisition? We have it displayed on our screen, whereby we have language acquisition is a process or stage whereby children are able to understand what is said, able to express their feelings, thoughts, wants, verbally or non-verbally. Remember the last two words that ends that definition, verbally or non-verbally. So that means that expression of language, as I've said earlier on, can be verbal, and at the same time, it can be non-verbal. So meaning that the stage or the process whereby a child is able to understand what is being said, that is, if you tell a child that go, and the child is able to understand that go means to move from one place to another or to go to a particular direction, then we can say that the child has some level of language acquisition. But there are stages to it. Remember I said that we have receptive language and then we have expressive language. The receptive language that has to do with the understanding what is being said, and then the expressive one that has to do with you expressing yourself using words or using speech. Let me put it that way. So now for a child of a particular age, let's say age of 2, might not be able to express himself fully and say, I want to pee, meaning that he wants to ease him or herself. Because of the age of the child might start saying, mommy, mommy. And then what the child means at that time is that he or she wants to pee because of the age. And as the child grows up, the child gets to a stage whereby whenever he or she wants to pee, it will start saying pee pee, pee pee, pee pee, pee pee. That is another stage. As time goes on, the child will get to a stage whereby whenever he wants to pee or he wants to use toilet or ease him or herself, will start saying, "Mommy, I want to pee." Able to communicate in a complete sentence. Remember that when he was saying that mommy, mommy, he has language. So maybe he doesn't have language, but because of the age, that is the level at which him or her can fully express herself at that time. So the process consists of abstracting structural information from the language they are exposed to around them and internalizing this information for later use. So when we're talking about this acquisition, at the time whereby these children at home, they start listening to different people, mommy and daddy talking to mommy, mommy talking to daddy. So this child begins to acquire different ways of communication, processing it, saving it in their memory for later use. So all of a sudden you will start seeing that you don't have to sit a child that you don't have to sit a child down and start teaching him that whenever I tell you go, you have to move this way. Whenever I tell you take, you have to collect. But you get to know that these things are spontaneous. They learn it. And how do they learn it? They learn it with modeling and the fact that when you are at home with them, you speak to your wife speak to you, these children, they also learn at the same time. But they try to process those abstracting structural information for later use. Now, moving on. Now, let's look at stages of language acquisition in a typical child. Remember I said a typical child, like stages. What are the stages of language acquisition? If a child is 6 months, if a child is 8 months, if a child is 1 year, what is expected of that child? If a child is 2 years, what is expected of that child? So because it is by this way that you'll be able to know if something has gone wrong or not. Because if you don't know the normal, you will find it difficult to know the abnormal. I believe we are together. So we have about 6 stages of 6 major stages of language acquisition in a typical child. The first one is pre-talking stage, which is between 0 to 6 months. Then we have babbling stage, which is between 6 months to 8 months. Then we have olophrastic stage, that is one word stage, which is between 9 months to 18 months. We also have 2 word stage, which is between 18 months to 24 months. We have telegraphic stage, which is between 2 years to 3 years. Then multi-word stage, which is 3 years and above. Now, let me quickly say this. We are not saying that this is the standard for stage acquisition or for language acquisition. But what we are saying is that it is expected that for a typical child, that there is no problem, nothing is wrong with, then the child should be able to achieve all this within this age bracket. That is what we are saying here. Now, let's take a deeper look at these stages. Now, pre-talking or queen stage, whereby we have is 0 to 6 months. We have it 0 to 6 months. So this is usually the first vocal milestone in children. So at this stage, we get to see the child start making eye contact, turning direction, turning to the direction of sounds, having undifferentiated cry for different feelings. So at this stage, you start seeing the child making different sounds, especially between the age of 0 to 3 months. Starts making sounds such as oh, hoo, 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 hoo. I think I have a short video of a baby at Queen stage. So I will play this short video. I think it's just a minute or some seconds. So let me play the video for us and see. So at this stage, we start seeing the child Queen and making different sounds. Ha 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 ha. A minute. Done. Okay. I'm trying to get the video played for us. Okay. Okay. Just a minute. Just a minute. I'm just trying to get sorry, I'm trying to get the connection back. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. I want to look at, okay, I think I've seen the video. So I just want to share the video with us now. Okay, so this is a video of a child at Queen stage. So we can see sorry, I don't know what is wrong with the network on my hand. Pardon me. Okay. Good. So we can see the child making different sounds. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh. So that's the stage of Queen for the child. So now at this stage of Queen, so we could see that the child was making different sounds, and then at that time, most of the sounds that the child was making was just more of vowel-like sounds, such as ha, ho, he, who, just making it randomly. So moving on to the next stage, which is the babbling stage. So at this babbling stage, it's usually between the age of 6 months to 8 months. Between the age of 6 months to 8 months. So the baby tries to reproduce sound he hears with a repetitive syllable. That is, when the child is at home, the child hears different sounds from either the siblings or mother and father. So the baby tries to repeat most of the sounds that he or she hears within his or her environment at that time. So that's why you see a baby saying ba 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 repeatedly. Ba 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 ba. You tend to see a baby saying mama 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 ka 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 ka. So that's usually a babbling stage in every child. So this stage is very, very important because it's a stage that sets a child to start communicating with one word, because the child that starts saying ba 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 ba, before you know it, the child will start saying baba. The child that has been saying da 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 da, before you know it, the child will start saying dada, and then before you know it, the child will start saying daddy. So the child that has been saying, okay, I think the screen, there is something. Okay, let me reshare the screen. So the child that has been saying mama, 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 before you know it, the child will start saying mama and all of that. So that is usually between the age of 6 to 8 months. Then we have the stage of one word stage, holophrastic stage, which is between the age of 9 months to 18 months. So at this stage, you see a child using one word for a sentence. So at this stage, one word, like using one word to express his feelings, just as I've said earlier, that a child that wants to pee might start saying mommy, mommy, mommy. Just say the child start to continue to say mommy, mommy, meaning that he or she wants to pee at that moment. That is the stage of one word. So at that time, a single word usually has different meanings at the stage because the child cannot combine words yet. So a child can say open. So open can mean open the door for me. A child can say mommy. Mommy can mean I want to eat. A child can say mommy. Mommy can mean I want to pee. A child can start saying mommy. Mommy can mean he wants to sleep, because at that time he's making use of one word to communicate. So you say that a child between that age of 9 months to 18 months, they are not making use of more than one word. To the next stage, which has to do with two-word stage. So at this stage, which is usually between the age of 18 months to 24 months. So you see a child using two words to represent a sentence. At this time, it's no longer mommy. The child starts combining words together. Mommy, food. To me, mommy, I want food. Mommy, eat. To me, mommy, I want to eat. A child might want to just say this is my bag, and then the only way the child can say it at that moment can just be my bag. At this stage, it's no more than two words. So at this time, they should it is expected that the child should understand requests and follow simple instruction, e.g., like such as give me the ball, give it to daddy, put on your shoe, and so on and so forth. So, and at this stage of 18 months to 24 months, they start learning new words. And as they are learning it, they are making use of it. As they are learning the new words, they are making use of it. To the next stage, which is the telegraphic stage, which manifests between the age of 2 to 3. So you start seeing a child start producing words more than 2 words, which are usually sentence like. But at this time, emphasis is usually on content words such as nouns, such as main verb, such as adjective. So you can't totally see a child having a how would I put it, a complete, a grammatical sentence, that is a sentence that is fully grammatical at that time. So you just try to pass the message across by using the main verb, the adjective, and then the noun. So you can see a child saying, "Mommy, play outside," when the child wants to say, "Mommy, I want to go and play outside." So at this period, what the child is passing across is just for um, the receiver of the message to understand what is being said. "Mommy, play outside," meaning that, "Mommy, I want to play outside." So the child tried to uh, bring 2 or 3 words, or even 4, but you tend to see that there is omission of articles, omission of prepositions, omission of pronouns, omission of conjunction. But in all, the message is understood. So what is expected for parents at this time, especially at this telegraphic stage, whereby a child is just trying to make use of the content words, a child is just trying to make use of the content words, as I've said earlier, such as noun, main verb, and adjective. So it is expected for a parent to model the correct language expression to create a balance. For example, if a child is saying, "Mommy, play outside," in as much that you understand what the message that the child is trying to pass across, you can model the language by saying, "Mommy, I want to go and play outside." "Oh, is that what you intend to say? Okay, good. Let's go and play outside." So anytime that you feel that, okay, the child is saying most of these words, but they lack some other um, other words such as articles, preposition, you can just try to model it for the child. But let it be at the back of your mind that at this stage, you don't expect to have 100% speech intelligibility of the child, because at this time there might not be clarity in some of the words of the child. So let's move on to the stage of multi-word stage, which happens to be at the age of 3 years. So at this stage, you see a child communicating using a complete sentence. So it's expected for a child at this age, the child should be able to understand yes or no response to a question. That's when a child is asked a question, you should be able to understand if either the answer is yes or no at the age of 3. So at the age of 3, it's expected that a child should be able to follow 2-part direction and instruction without difficulty. What do I mean by 2-part direction? That is instruction that involves 2 actions, such as take the clothes on the chair to the bedroom. You know, the child has to process that, take the clothes on the chair, and he has to process that, take it to the bedroom. So that's what is meant by 2-part direction. So another example for that is carry your school bag and sit on the chair. So at this stage of 3, it's expected that the child is able to understand 2-part direction. So remember I said that the reason why we are taking a look at this is that because if you don't understand the normal, you will find it difficult to know when something is abnormal. So if a child is at the age of 3 and is finding it difficult to understand 2-part direction, as I've said earlier, you should know that something is wrong, because it's no longer a normal development for a typical child. So at this stage of 3, the child should be able to understand turn taking, and the child should be able to share interests with adults and even his or her peers. So at the age of 4 to 5, you start seeing the child frequently asking the meaning of unfamiliar words. So when the child hears a particular words, the child starts asking what is the meaning. The child starts asking questions over and over. So The child is expected to be able to explain what is wrong and to have a simple conversation, especially at the age of 4 to 5. Moving on. Now, so at what age should we expect speech signs? At what age should we expect speech signs? Before I move to the next slide, when we talk about speech signs, I think I made mention of that from the start, that this has to do with phonemes that we can at the same time refer to as alphabets, but not alphabets, because we have about we have 44 English sounds in English. So all these sounds are put together to form a word. The sound ga and o comes together to form go. So we have letter C, which sounds as ka. We have U, and then we have P, which sounds as pa, and give us cup. So we are not saying that at what age should we expect speech sounds. That is, at what age should a child be able to fully articulate a particular sound? We are talking of R sound. At what age should a child be able to articulate it very well? At what age should a child be able to say ka? At what age should a child be able to say pa, ka, ga, da, ma? At what age is a child is able to is expected for a child to have acquire some sounds without difficulty? Let's look at this. Okay. So we can see this is more like a chart. So we can see the age brackets. We have the age of 2 to 3 years. So we have the sound. We can see the sound in front of each year. We have let's start from 2 to 3 years. We have pa, ba, ma, da, na, ta, ka, ga, wa, ong. We have those sounds. So it's expected that at the age of 2 to 3, those sounds in front of each age is expected to be fully acquired by a child. So because there are a number of cases that I have gotten in the course of practicing, whereby you see a parent saying that my child is not is finding difficulty in articulating a particular sound, is having difficulty in saying this sound correctly. So now we have to look at the age brackets. As the child reached that level of the acquisition, now look at the age of 4. A child that is still 2 or 3, you can't expect the child to start saying va sound, that is B, correctly. So there are some children that even they don't still follow this chart. Yeah, that was why I said it earlier on that children develop differently, and then we can't totally compare them. So now see the age of 4, we have some signs over there that is expected that at this age, a child should not have difficulty with those signs. At the age of 5, the signs, the speech sound that we have in front of it is expected that a child should not have difficulty. At the age of 6, we see the sound there, as we have it in thought. So at the age of 6, it's expected that a child should not have difficulty in articulation of that sound. Though we will still get to that, there are possible causes for a child to still have difficulty in articulating or in the acquisition of these sounds. So let's look at speech and language delay in children. Speech and language delay in children. What is speech delay? In a simple term, speech delay is when a child has not developed speech sound at an expected age. Remember the graph, the charts that I showed to us in the previous slides, whereby we have 2 to 3 and then we have some number of sounds. So we can only say that a child has a speech delay when the child has reached that particular stage that is expected to have acquired a particular sound. So if the child is still finding it difficult to articulate that sound, then we can say the child has a speech delay. For example, a child that is at the age of 2 to 3 that is still having difficulty with the articulation of P as in pa sound, ba sound, ma sound. So we can say if the child is having difficulty in articulating those sounds, we can say the child has a speech delay. In other words, when the child has difficulty in mastery of a particular sound at an expected age, that is, the child finds it difficult to master the sound, but the child has reached the age that is expected for the acquisition of those sounds, but the child still finds it difficult, then we can say the child has speech delay. Now, coming to language delay, we can say language delay is when a child has difficulty understanding words. Remember, I said it earlier on, the language has to do with understanding of what is being said, and then the expression of your thoughts, feelings, ideas, and all. So language delay is when a child has difficulty understanding words or difficulties communicating with words at an expected age. Now let's look at possible causes for speech language delay in children. That is, having discussed speech delay, having discussed language delay, having showed us speech sound charts. Now, what are the likely causes for a child to have speech delay? What are the likely causes for a child not to be for a child to reach a stage of the acquisition of a particular sound, but still finding difficult to articulate that sound? So what are the possible causes? Let's look at it. I believe we are together. So okay. Now we have structural problems that can be speech language delay can be as a result of structural problems such as cleft lips or palates, tongue tie, open bites. So we can see the picture on the screen. So that's cleft palate and then cleft lips. So a child with this condition will have difficulty in articulation of some sounds, especially like a child with the cleft lips, some sound that has to do with whereby the placement of the upper lip is needed. The child will have difficulty in the articulation. So a child with this, the other picture, the second picture whereby we have cleft palate, we also have difficulty in the articulation of some sound, correct? Especially for the oral sounds, you get to know that if a child with this, I'm focusing on the second picture right now. If a child with this condition, will surely find it difficult, whereby when most of the sounds are articulated, they tend to find escape into the nose, whereby most of the sounds still sound through the nose. And then there are three major sounds that are expected to sound through the nose, which are mi, ni, ong. Those are the sounds that are expected to come through the nose. For a child with this typical condition on the second picture, we have most of the sounds coming through the nose. And then it's a problem because of the structural deformation. So tongue tie is also another possible cause for a child not to acquire some level of speech sounds, because a child who, with tongue tie, whereby there is a limitation to the mobility of the tongue, we have difficulty in articulation of some specific sounds. The child will not be able to articulate a sound whereby the tongue needs to be raised up or the tongue needs to be rolled. So such child may not be able to articulate R sound very well. Such child may not be able to articulate like maybe the boy wants to say leg, because in the course of articulating the letter L, it's expected that the tongue is raised up and touch the alveolar ridge. So this can also be a factor for delaying acquisition of particular sound. Also, open bites. So we're talking about, remember, we're talking about the structural deformity. So a child with open bites, that is when a child that's whereby the upper teeth and the lower teeth will not form a good alignment. So there is this space. So a child will have some difficulty in articulation of some specific sounds, such as ta, t. So the child might not be able to articulate t sound very well. So let's look at other causes. So other causes include oral motor problem, and then also we have hearing loss. For example, a child with hearing loss, because hearing is very, very key when it comes to speaking. Remember, I said when I was talking on the babbling stage that it is what the child hears within the environment that he or she tries to repeat and start making babbling. Try to form word around, start babbling, ba 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 da 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 da. So the child is able to babble because he hears. So, like for a child with hearing loss, there is a likelihood for the child to have language delay. There is a possibility for the child to have speech delay, because the child could not hear anything, and it is what the child hears that he or she will speak. So there are some developmental disorders too that can cause speech or language delay in children, such as intellectual disability, cerebral palsy, autism, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, learning disability. So a child with any of these diagnosed is on the verge of experiencing speech language delay, because everything about children with any of these diagnoses I've mentioned, cerebral palsy, autism, intellectual disability, they usually experience delay in all their developmental milestone, be it motor developmental milestone, be it speech developmental milestone. So such child with cerebral, like a child with cerebral palsy now, if it's an idea for a child of 2 to 3 years to have acquired some level of speech sound and some more level of language. For a child with cerebral palsy, the case might be different. So let's talk briefly on autism, because of our time, because I want to take some questions. So autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong developmental disability that can impact an individual's social skills, communication, and adaptive skills. So it usually manifests between the age of 2 to 3. So one of the things that happens when it comes to autism spectrum disorder, you tend to see that everything about them, there is no delay. The motor developmental milestone, the crawling stage, perfect, no delay. The sitting without support, no delay. The walking, no delay. Even the child will have started saying some few words, even at the age of 2. And then before you know it, all of a sudden, by the age of 2 or close to 3, you start seeing everything coming down, or everything starts fading away. So a child that has some level of vocabulary is about maybe 10 or even more than that, starts saying that, starts using his or her words. But aside that, there are other red flags that we can refer to as signs and symptoms of autism. things that you can watch out for before you can totally say a child is on autism, a child is on spectrum, or a child is autistic. So let's look at some of them. So most of them, they usually have issue. They usually have deficits in communication and interaction. So you tend to see a child fail to respond to his or her name, or appears to pretend to hear you at times. That is when the child is called, the child does as if he or she doesn't hear you. Generally, the child just finds it difficult to respond to his or her name. And then most of them might resist cuddling, holding, and seems to prefer play alone. They just want to be on their own. They just want you to just leave them alone. They want to anything they want to do. They don't want any interference. They just want to do it on their own. Most of them usually have poor eye contact and lack of facial expression. So most of them usually have delayed speech, and then, as I've said earlier, they lose their previous words. Most of the things that the words that they have been saying, maybe at the age of close to 2, maybe at the age of 1.5, all of a sudden, you discover that they can no longer say it. So most of them can start a conversation or keep on going, or only start one to make requests or label items. So let's look at some other signs. So most of them, you might see most of them repeating words or phrases verbatim, but doesn't understand how to use them. So they seem to understand simple questions or direction. They don't understand. By the time you give them, you try to instruct them. Remember, I said that a child is expected at the age of 2 or 3 to part direction, like take the bag, pick up your school bag, and take it to the bedroom. So a child with autism might not be able to understand that. So they don't usually want to share interest. If they are playing with toys, they just want to be with the toys alone. They don't want anybody to touch anything that belongs to them. So most of them, you see most of them being aggressive most time. You see most of them being disruptive. You see most of them being hyperactive. So, and the most of them usually find it difficult to interpret other people's facial expression, body posture, or tone of voice. So let's talk about their behavioral problems too. So most of them usually have this repetitive behavior, especially repetitive movements such as rocking. You see them spinning in the house. You see them enjoying flapping of their hands. We even have some of them like though depending on the level of severity anyway, like they have this self-injurious behavior such as biting or head banging. So, and then most of them enjoy routines. They enjoy like things to be done in the same manner. They might just decide that this is a particular clothes they want to start wearing. They will insist on it. They enjoy routine, and then most of them get easily fascinated by details of an object, colorful objects such as spinning, wheels of a toy, but doesn't understand the overall purpose or function of the objects. You can just see a child being autistic, like just being fascinated with a fan. I mean, the rolling of the fan in the house. So those are the behavioral problems that most of children on autism spectrum disorder usually have. So most of them are sensitive to light at the same time. They're sensitive to touch, and then some are even indifferent to pain and temperature. So, and some even find it difficult to imitate actions. They can imitate you. Some like they have this obsession of things. They get obsessed. It might be with a toy, it might be with one particular object in the house. They just get upset, and then if you try to get it away from them, the house might be on fire. They won't take it easy with you. Most of them have food preferences. They have that a particular food they like, and then if you don't give them, they might choose not to eat. And then in the course of their behavior too, you tend to see them while playing with toys, see them lining up objects, just lining up, start lining up objects, And as I've said earlier, so they get attracted to colorful objects or paints easily. So those are the characteristics and signs and symptoms that you might likely see in a child on autism spectrum disorder. So as a parent or caregivers or parent to be, the fact that you have knowledge about it is expected that once these are seen or once these are observed in a child, it's cause for attention. You should endeavor to see a specialist for a comprehensive diagnosis. So now let's take a look at how to aid speech and language development in babies, how you can be of help. So the development of speech and language in babies. So early emotional connection is very key to speech and language development. As I usually tell parents during counseling, that it is not until you give birth to a baby that you start talking to your child, even right from the pregnancy. It's expected that you talk to the child, you communicate with the child, you build the communication even before the child comes out of the womb. So talk to the child or the baby every day. Talk to the baby as you carry out your daily activity. Even when the child is 3 months, 4 months, even when the child has not started saying anything, talk to the child as you carry out your daily activities. Talk about everything you are doing. Make your baby a gist partner immediately after birth. Always talk about what you are doing. You are cooking. Just talk about it. Even the fact that you are backing the child. Talk about what you are doing. You are washing plates. You are washing plates. You want to cook. Have conversation with the baby like an adult. Don't look at the age. Just talk to the baby like you are talking to an adult. Engage the baby whenever the baby smiles at you. Engage the baby with a conversation. Oh, probably you just dressed up and then the baby just smile at you and just say a simple, oh, you like my dress? Oh, my dress is fine. Just find a way of communicating with the baby whenever they tend to communicate with you. So the means of communication for that child, maybe because of the age, like a child within the age of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, they will start smiling at you at different occasions. You communicate. Find a way of establishing a communication, just like you are talking to an adult. And then for a child that has started pointing at things, so whatever the child points at, talk about it. Or you are pointing at a table, that's a table. Or you are pointing at a cat, probably a toy, you give a description about it. Just talk around whatever the child points to. Then for an adult, probably, for a grown-up child at the age of 4 to 5, just cultivate the habit of telling stories. Cultivate the habit of reading simple story to that child. So it will build the language, it will help the language development, it will help the speech development. So it should enrich the language of the child at the same time. So thank you for your attention. This is where we are going to stop for today. So in case of any questions, I would like to take questions at this time. Thank you. So, Mr. Ojedeji Samuel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks so much for taking us through that powerful session. It's always interesting that we need to learn as parents. It's always interesting that we need to add knowledge as parents. It's quite critical. If we don't do, there will be so many things at stake, which we may need to have cause to want to remedy in the future. And it's not because God has not given us blessed children, but because we do not have the right knowledge we should have to help our children develop and that properly. I am very much concerned with early childhood development because it lays the foundation for whatever is going to happen in a child's life. I mean, large number of things have been done already. Any other thing you are doing after the child has clocked 8, you are just making a effort because but rather than strong to do the right thing from defensive to correct. Thanks so much, Mr. We are very much grateful and it has been very enlightening. It has been very enlightening. We'll take questions now. If there's anyone who has any question, I think there's a chat in the chat room.
I'm with you, sir. I think the connection is
if you don't mind, Mr. Olurumbi, if you don't mind, you can talk to us. You can talk to us directly. And do we have you talking to us, sir?
Okay. Hello, sir. Good afternoon to you, sir. Good evening to you, rather. Hello, hope I'm audible enough. Good evening to you, sirs.
We can hear you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for the section. It's actually greatly enlightening. I appreciate it a lot. All right, but my question is actually from this perspective. We all know about some ethnic groups and their some environment and the kind of world deficits they kind of have. Like we know about the Ibadan people. We most of the time they always have this. They have these challenges of pronouncing sh. But is that thing generational? Is it that once you're staying in Ibadan, you're from Ibadan, is it that your child will automatically get it? Is it genetic? That kind of thing. That's my question, please.
Yes, Mr. Fagbemi, please. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I got your question right. Well, we usually refer to that as environmental factor. Yeah, environmental factor. Because especially your culture, your cultural background, probably you're a Yoruba now, there are some alphabets in Yoruba that we don't have it in English language, such as GB, we don't have it in English language. And then another word such as sh, we don't have it. I mean, we don't like letter V. We don't have it in Yoruba. So people from Yoruba background can have difficulty in articulation of va sound. So because everything in Yoruba is fa, 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 like fan, like Fanta. For example, now when we're talking about flower verse, like okay, let's say okay, verse in the scripture, VERSE, verse is different from the pronunciation we have in FAN, fan. Okay, a perfect example, VAN, VAN, that is van, van. Then FAN, that is fan, fan. So someone from Yoruba backgrounds is likely to have difficulty with the pronunciation of the bastard because we don't have it in Yoruba alphabet. So it's possible. And then, and that is why school, the fact that we go to schools and then those corrections are being made, and then because and then the way when we hear people speak, we tend to adjust ourselves and then strike a balance. So in a nutshell, yeah, one environment can contribute to difficulty in articulation of some certain signs. It's very, very possible. So we refer to it as an environmental factor. So, and then there's this commoner one whereby you find some people find it difficult to say hard sound, hard sound. So whenever they are talking, there is omission of hard. So in speech language pathology, we usually call it articulation disorder. Articulation disorder, because it's expected that that is not the right way of articulating a sound. So either there is omission or there is a substitution for the sound. Instead of you to say sh, you are saying s. Instead of you to say va, you are saying fa. So that is the sound. Okay. Yes.
I think
does it mean it can be managed?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. That is where the place of speech therapy comes in. That is where the place of speech therapy comes in. Number one is that we have to make the person aware of the error that the person is making. Just for example, that I've given earlier on as regards the va, as in V, letter V, and then letter F. We have to let the person understand that this is what you are saying, and then this is the right one. Then we teach the person how to articulate or pronounce the right one correctly. It might have to do with placement. The person might not get the placement right. Like, if you look at my mouth now, you can see that the positioning of the mouth is different in the course of articulating the two signs. Let me say it again.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fagbemi.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Thanks so much for the explanation. Thanks so much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
I think I would like to make an addition.
Okay, sir.
And it's that really environment plays a very big role in language. Because of course we acquire speech from the environment. Children watch parents, children pick how people talk in the environment. That's why a child will not necessarily have to go to school before he or she starts speaking Yoruba or starts speaking English. Just by the virtue of what is being said at home, a child can begin to pick up words. So the environment plays a very big role. And I also like to cite this example. If you look at Nigerians who give birth in diaspora, or it could happen in any other reverse African giving birth in the Western, countries, or even in the Western native giving birth in Africa. If the person is not, if the language used in the home is not that of the native, of the nativity of the parents, the child would likely pick the language in that environment. So it's possible that a Yoruba person is giving birth to in the US or in the UK, and hear him speak like an American or a Briton, because he has picked language of that place. The parents would have to deliberately teach him or her their own native language for him to pick those the language of the parents. So the environment plays a very big role, and parenting plays a very big role as well. But when there are issues, maybe owing to structural deficit and other challenges that may be beyond the issue of environment, then speech pathologists may need to come into the show, dentists may need to come into the show, and other people that are involved in the speech process thing. So thanks so much, sir. I want to just emphasize on one or two other issues before we stop for tonight. And you did say something that if we don't know the normal, then we will find it difficult to know the normal. For me, parenting is a very big challenge that all parents really need to wake up to, particularly in this kind of generation. We cannot assume a position of not knowing, because there's so much knowledge available to us, and we can be the best we ought to be as. I can only plead with us as parents to please learn. Let's keep learning, because we cannot learn too much. We cannot learn too much. When children are at different spaces, the other thought I would like to share is we must always understand the place of age appropriateness. At times we expect too much from children, and at times when they don't measure up to our own standard, not the normal development standard, we can act of frustration. We get annoyed, shout at them, because there's pressure, economic pressure, and all kinds of pressure. Because there's no money at hand, we can get frustrated and shout at that, leave me alone, and all of those things. The child will just be the child he or she is. We can only help them learn and help them get better by working with them at the level where they are. So I want to plead with us, learning each stage our children are, and then relating with them at that level. It's very important. It's very important. And lastly, I would like to resonate what our guest speaker has said about talking to your child like an adult. A very easy thing to do, really. You have to talk to your child like an adult. It's not a very easy thing to do. As parents, is what we need to do, because that's how we can help our children develop. talking to them frequently from time to time. Also, reading to them, even while they are very young. We need to do all of these things because it will help our children develop properly. In fact, it will enhance their development compared to parents that would not do those things with their own children. A lot of insight tonight, a lot of knowledge gained. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Abimbola Fagbemi. We are very, very spending time to be with us tonight. On behalf of the parenting support community, on behalf of every one of us at Faith Ministry, I'm saying a very big thank you to you, sir. The Lord bless you.
Amen.
And the Lord grant unto you more grace.
Amen.
In Jesus' name. Once again, this is March series. March series organized by Faith Ministry for our parenting support community. And we considering a number of issues presently. Tomorrow, we are going to be having a certified autism specialist with us. Yes. Today we had Mr. Abimbola Fagbemi, who's a speech pathologist. Although he has touched on the issue of autism, but tomorrow we are going to be digging deeper. Yes. We are going to be hosting Mrs. Tosin Ibimidu. I've interacted with her. I have had an opportunity of, having to work with her. She's an autism specialist, and we're going to be gaining a lot more as we take it further tomorrow. So the time will still be 7 p.m. Using same venue, the Zoom link that we have on the YouTube channel, whichever is more convenient and better for us. It will be great to host you once again tomorrow, and we're going to become better parents and help our children develop maximally at this time. Please, we love that you share these videos, share this information with your loved ones and friends, with your contact, and invite them to join us tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for attending. We do not take the time you have spared for granted. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Tomorrow by 7 p.m. we meet again. Our greetings to all God's heritage in your care. Thank you so much, and let's have a blessed night.
Thank you, sir.